Speaking of international duty, the recent round of action saw England qualify for next year's World Cup with 2 qualifying games to spare. They've also not conceded a single goal in qualifying and won all 6 games under Thomas Tuchel. However, no Jude Bellingham in the recent round of action. Thomas Tuchel's been asked about that and whether he'll be speaking to him, and he said, of course, he's an important player, he's a big player. I will speak to a lot of players, also to the guys that will get a text from me who are not in camp, especially them. No one has done anything wrong, it's not a punishment or whatever, and I feel that when I text them and I speak to them, that everyone is eager to come back, and this is how it has to be. Craig, what do you think of what he's had to say there?
Well, look, this is boring the life out of me. Not Bellingham per se. Not Bellingham, the Bellingham stuff per se. Just I'll get to this in a minute. Jude Bellingham hasn't played well for a while, right? And there was a perceived attitude issue on the field that Tuchel didn't like. I understand all that, and you can address that, and managers do and have done before. But let me just say, it is easier to leave out big stars and big players and big names when you're playing cannon fodder. And I know it's not England's fault. I know it's not Tuchel's fault. But these qualification games are just a tad short of a waste of time, apart from the fact you're going to qualify for a World Cup. But we know England's going to do that anyway. And, you're walloping Latvia and all these teams. If you go and play Spain and France and Italy and the better teams in Europe, and you're getting beat or you're drawn and your performance is not great, it's more difficult to leave your big stars out. And I don't think Jude Bellingham should be in the England team at the moment, because I don't think obviously he's had the shoulder injury, didn't play particularly well last year. He's just come back, shouldn't have played in the Madrid derby, that was a mistake from Alonso. So he's not ready to step into the England team. But my point is, for any manager, it's much easier to poo-poo some of your bigger, what we would call the old big heads, when you're walloping some of the weakest team in Europe, what England have done. And that's all they have done. I mean, don't read into the qualification. It means diddly squat come the World Cup. Because these teams can't even raise a gallop against England. So, the crunch will be when he needs his big players in the big moments, at the big tournaments, in the knockout rounds of the World Cup. That will be the crux of when he goes to the well in these games, who's he going to go for? Easy to talk about it now when you're walloping the Latvias of the world. More difficult when you're playing the juggernauts of international football, like the big European teams, like the big South American teams. That's when a manager will have to make the big decisions.
Yeah, because to Craig's point, Robbo, the big games and the big tests lie ahead with the World Cup not coming next year. Is that when he really does need these big stars to rely on?
Of course he does. But at the moment, if you're the England manager, it doesn't matter, whether you've been there a long time or you haven't been there a long time, you've got to pick players that are fit and in form. At the moment, I don't think Jude Bellingham is fully fit. He's still struggling from his operation. He's been out for a long while, so he's not going to be fully fit. And he's not played well for quite some while. So Thomas Tuchel doesn't have to pick him at the moment. He'll hope that Jude Bellingham over the next few months starts to show the form that he showed a year and a half ago when he got into the Real Madrid side and was scoring goals and playing brilliantly. And he can get back to that, I'm sure of that. And that's when, as Craig said, that's when he'll be needed, when England are playing big teams in the World Cup, because he is one of England's best players, when he's playing at his best. But at the moment, he's not fit and hasn't been playing well enough to justify being picked for England.
Before Augie or Shaq want to step in. I think this is nothing against England or Thomas Tuchel, right? They have to. You can only play what you can play. Your group is your group. They're way too strong, and this is what UEFA have been talking about, and making it a little bit more exciting. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen, because qualification is qualification, and this is probably always going to be the case. But I think this, from an English perspective, if I'm looking from the outside as someone who lived in England for the best part of 25 years and played down there, is that this is where England and England supporters get, and maybe some in the media, but maybe not all, get carried away. And all of a sudden it's like, Thomas Tuchel's come in, he's ruffled a few feathers, he's talked about some supporters and he's talked about the atmosphere, but he's got these great results against these weaker teams. And all of a sudden now it's like, oh, we've finally found the man, this is the guy, he's going to take us to the promised land and all that. And I do feel he'll get a bit carried away with these qualification results. And it's kind of frustrating to sort of watch because it's akin to an FA Cup tie, like, you know, Liverpool or Arsenal playing somebody in League One or something like that. So I don't think it's a barometer.
I agree. But the weird thing for me, looking in from the outside, is this: whatever it is happening between Jude Bellingham and Thomas Tuchel, and he's taking the opportunity. Maybe not necessarily Tuchel, but certainly the media around the England camp has taken the opportunity with these good results against Latvia and Wales and whoever else to almost make more of that than it should be. And as everybody has alluded to, Bellingham doesn't deserve to be in the England squad right now, but yet still, he's a topic of discussion because of whatever it has happened between those two. Yet, certainly we all agree that come the World Cup, he'll be there and he'll have to play a significant part, an important part, if England are to go as deep in this tournament as they're expected to. So I just don't understand why all the noise about Bellingham. We know how this story is going to play out.
Yeah, I would be interested to know if you're hearing anything behind the scenes, Oggy, on this whole situation with Thomas Tuchel and the big England stars. Obviously, the players that he has been picking have been delivering for him, albeit against the opposition they've been facing.
Yeah, there's been chat for a while about Bellingham, probably going back to the Euros, where it's a squad of 23, 24 big egos, and we have to admit that if you play at that top level for a top Premier League European club and play for England, you have to have an ego to perform. And there's a suggestion that his ego is bigger than others, and he wasn't massively popular within the camp during the Euros. There was that incident in the final where he gave Gareth Southgate a dressing down during the game. So he rates himself, Jude Bellingham, and I think it rubs people up a little bit, especially when he doesn't do his share of the media commitments that the other players do. You know, Harry Kane is much more important to Bayern Munich in England than Jude Bellingham is to Real Madrid in England. But, you know, Jude Bellingham doesn't do the same kind of media work that Harry Kane does. And I think it rubs people up the wrong way in the camp. But in the sense of why we're all talking about it, well, I mean, the reality is when international football comes around, as the guys know, you have 10 days, 2 weeks of nothing happening, nothing interesting happening. There's no Premier League, no La Liga. So you basically got England. So for 5 or 6 days, you've got nothing to write about or report about than England. And the problem is that issues that aren't really important, like can Morgan Rogers play number 10, become big issues. You know, Jude Bellingham suddenly becomes a 3 or 4 day issue because there's nothing else to get into. So, and you know, that's the thing. He's a big player, he's a world-class player, he's a world name. So people are going to talk about Jude Bellingham. But the reality is, there's no way he's going to miss out on the World Cup unless he's not fit, because this is Thomas Tuchel's only chance to win a World Cup. This is he's like got one shot at the World Cup, so he has to take Bellingham. He might not like him, he might not play him, but if he goes to the World Cup and England lose in the second round of the quarterfinals and doesn't take Jude Bellingham, we're like, well, hang on, Thomas, you've left a Real Madrid midfielder out of your squad, so what's all that about? So he'll take him primarily as an insurance policy to avoid being criticised for not taking him. But when it gets to the World Cup, you know, what's happened against Wales, against Latvia, against Serbia, you know, Morgan Rogers has played really well. But you can't judge him against those teams. You can't judge him against Latvia when the reality is he's going to be measured against France and Spain and Brazil and Argentina, all the teams that England never beat at major finals. So this is the problem. These easy games give you a false picture. You know, Thomas Tuchel's first real challenge could be his last game in charge, you know, a knockout game at the World Cup. So that's why you have this kind of phony war before a tournament, because everybody knows that England are going to coast through the tournament, coast through the qualifiers and get to the World Cup and have the same situation again. When they really, really need their big players to step up against France or Spain, they don't.
I think this is a big. I do actually think, even though I've been sort of rubbishing some of the results, it's not rubbishing them, just, you know, the standard of opposition. I do think this Bellingham thing is a big issue, you know, in terms of if you project it forward to the World Cup, and you look at the player's character, you look at the issue with the father at times getting involved with not only Jude but the brother. If you look at the fact that Bellingham is having himself, there is no doubt about that. He's super confident in himself. My opinion is that Thomas Tuchel needs Jude Bellingham to have a really, really good season for Real Madrid going into this World Cup. In the sense that when you get to the World Cup, he plays him. And he's in the team and he's playing well. because that helps England, clearly. But if he's got a Jude Bellingham who is, his form is average and he takes him, and as Augie said, no guarantee in that case he plays. What's the problem then in the squad in the hotel when you're 5 weeks away, 6 weeks away in North America, and you've got a superstar who's brooding, who's unhappy, who may be a problem? Not saying he is, may be a problem, because he thinks he's the best player, he thinks he's the top man, but he's not in the team. That's going to be a real headache for the camp. I've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen managers kick players out of camp. I've seen players walk out of a World Cup camp when they were told they weren't the number one player, the number one goalkeeper. I saw Andy Gorham do it. He left. And I think Tuchel needs to have Bellingham, for various reasons. For football reasons, he needs him to be playing really well. But I think for the camp reason, for the squad reason, he needs him to be playing well so that he can put him in the team. Because if he's not in the team, the management of this player, I think, during a major tournament could be an issue. And that is going to be, I think, really intriguing to watch. So I think the form of Jude Bellingham is very important for Thomas Tuchel going into this World Cup here in the United States in 2026.